Okay, so I've seen a couple people, yeah. So a few of you already know the potential that we have here with journaling. Now, let me go to the next slide here. Why journal? Why are we even bothered to do this? Okay, well, one of the things that we're taught as far as just taking notes, when we put the pen and the paper together, it enhances the memory, right? When you write it, it helps to
Mm-hmm.
reinforce the memory. So journaling is more than just writing. It's a tool for self-discovery and personal development. Now you're going to get mental clarity. This is something that I know, that I've seen in the journaling I've done. You're organizing your thoughts, the process. You can process complex ideas this way because you help keep track of where you are in your thought process, and you can go back to different things and you get a fresh perspective. A lot of times I'll be working on something and I'll kind of forget about what I, in the beginning, what I was doing as far as my thoughts, and it helps just kind of keep things organized, right? Emotional health, this is one, reduce stress, anxiety, depression, um, these things, by journaling, it's a safe place. You can sit and you can write whatever you want to write. Nobody's going to read it, right? If you do open your journal to somebody else, it's probably somebody you know and trust really close. But it's kind of like the diary. When you're young, you're taught, hey, don't read your sister's diary or these kind of things. It's personal, right? So this is a place that you can really express your feelings and kind of keep things organized when it comes to emotional health too. Self-awareness, understand values, triggers, and behaviors through reflection, right? So if you are having a bad day in your journal, you talk about the different experiences that maybe led up to what caused it to be a bad day. You can go back and reflect on these things, and then as you see these events start to unfold again, you can maybe react differently or see things in a different way. All right, and then goal setting. This is one for me that's really helped a lot, is that you can track your progress, set intentions, stay focused on your aspirations, okay? And, I have a few different businesses that I do, and one of them, tracking progress is super important. And journaling there has really helped me to stay focused and to just bring my level up, as far as success in that business. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of different reasons for journaling, and everybody's going to do it a little bit different, right? And you can kind of set your own way to do this. Your journaling starts here. 5 tailored outlines we're going to talk about. These outlines are going to give the structure for your journal, right? For how you want to do it, because if it's a business type journal, that's going to be different than like I've got a special journal just for vacations. Okay, when we go on our cruises, or this year we're going to go on a cruise. We're about to take a trip. My wife and I are going to Romania next month to see her mom over there. Okay, so you're going to help deepen your journaling practice, whether it's for daily reflection, whether it's for goal setting, or emotional processing. Okay, now daily reflection journal. All right, this is going to be like a mood check-in, key events that happen through the day. All right, different gratitudes or lessons that you learn through the day. Tomorrow's intention, right? Prepare for tomorrow. At the end of the day, as you're doing your journal, by writing your goal or your focus for the next day. All right, so here's an example at the bottom. August 14th, optimistic after meeting, grateful for coffee, coworkers, sunny weather, learn to prioritize tomorrow, finish project outline, right? So you can see it can be really basic. What I like to do is when I journal on, the daily reflection, like when we were on the rafting trip, right? I like to take the main things that stood out to me as far as my emotions, and I put those in there, right? The way that I felt during that time, because a lot of times we can look at pictures or we can see things, but we really don't know, we don't remember the emotion or what we actually felt in that moment. Okay, so a goal-oriented journal. All right, this is going to track progress towards personal or professional goals. This outline keeps you focused, keeps you motivated. You can track your steps. You can see if you're starting to fall off, right? If you're doing, let's say your goal is 5 a day at whatever you're doing, right? And you see, well, a couple days here, you only got 4 in or 3 in, right? You have to step it up. So goals and actions, you state your specific goal, you list the steps taken today, right? Any obstacles in progress throughout the day, you note the changes, and assess how much closer you are to your goal, okay? Because it's really the steps along the way. I mean, we'd love to reach that goal, but you have to enjoy the process too, right? We've heard that before. And then motivation in the next steps. Write an affirmation and outline the immediate next action you have to take. So this way, when you go into your next day, you know exactly what you're going to do. So example, goal, you write novel today, 500 words. Chapter 3, obstacle, phone, right? Use focus app, progress, 20% draft, motivation, story matters, right? So you can see in this example, they basically put, where each day they're going to track the progress on these things. So 500 words, tomorrow maybe 700, right? The obstacles for the day, phone, okay? And I'm going to guess that's going to be distractions, and that's what it is for me, is getting, distracted with phone calls and things like this, right? The focus app, if you haven't used those before, it just kind of helps you to block your schedule and stay focused in certain time frames, okay? Progress, 20% of your draft done, right? So each day, this will get updated with new numbers, all right? So the goal-oriented journal, this is really good, and this is the one that helps me the most in business, to track my progress, how many calls I'm making when it comes to the 7K business, how many follow-ups, these type of things. So the gratitude journal, this is a real one, all right? Purpose is cultivate positivity and focus on life's blessings, because a lot of times there's so much negativity in the world, folks. We need this positive energy, and we need to focus on it, right? So you shift your perspective to what truly enriches you, the things that matter to you, the things that make you happy, because we have to go through our day, right? If we have our job, we've got to go to our job every day. If we've got to deal with coworkers that aren't so friendly and fun to work with, you still have to do it. So when we take our time and we come back and we journal, we can reflect on our gratitudes. We can reflect on any positive moments throughout the day, right? And then set our intentions for our next day. Set our intentions for our mood, right? If you do have that coworker that bugs you, right? Set your intention for your mood, that as soon as you see those signs, that you're going to take a different direction when it comes to your emotions, okay? So set intentions for tomorrow. Example, gratitude for family dinner, good book, quiet morning, positive moment, laughing with sister, reflection, these moments ground me, the intention, compliment someone tomorrow, okay? So they set up their goals for the next day, is what they want to do. Compliment someone tomorrow. This is positive. This is, giving compliments is something that Tim Schmalbeck, he's really good at this, okay? He's, on an individual basis, all right? And it makes the people around you feel really good too. So the last one we're going to talk about is the emotional processing journal, okay? Emotions and triggers, identify your primary emotion and the events that sparked it, all right? This type of a journal is going to help keep you clear in these times when, emotionally we may start getting off our average, right? So the physical sensation, note any physical reactions, to your body, to your mind during these stressful times, right? You're going to write about why this emotion feels intense and what it's teaching you, right? Because one of the things for me, I come from an Italian background. There was a time in my life I had to really, keep myself calm in times when I, get angry, and I learned to do that, right? I watched my parents, grandparents, different family, and basically you just focus on yourself, okay? You're gonna feel your feelings, but you journal it. You can look back each week and see, well, this week was, a really positive week, right? Or if there's challenges, you can see that there. So you got to focus on what it teaches you each week. This is really important. Resolution and affirmation. Suggest a healthy way to move forward, and write a kind statement to yourself. Okay. okay? A lot of times we're not getting our compliments from other people or the people around us. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself compliments. Look in the mirror. What we speak. We've talked about this before. Mindset is so important. Tell yourself positive things in the mirror, right? Set yourself positive goals in the mirror. These are all things that are going to really make a difference. And if we keep track of them in a journal, we can tell from 1 week to the next, from 1 month to the next. And in some cases, like in the example I gave you, that was from 2 years ago, when we went on the rafting trip. But, I've got over 7 pages of notes there that define the detail of where we were at and what we did, right? Example, emotions, frustration, okay? Tomorrow it may be different, right? Triggered, work your project delayed, okay? So there was something that actually caused this frustration. It sounds like it was out of the person's hands. Sensations, clenched jaw, you're like, getting, angry. Exploration, feel stuck, can't control the timeline, right? Now, next, discuss with the boss, affirmation, I'm doing my best. So you're doing your best. We had a situation that came that was out of your control, caused frustration, right? And if we identify these feelings, if we identify these emotions, when they come the next time, right? So the frustration that we felt isn't going to be as strong. We can keep our positive energy up when there's negative energy coming towards us, because the negative energy is going to keep coming no matter how we do it, right? So creative writing journal, outline 5. Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was 4. But our purpose for the creative writing journal is, some people are writers. I'm more of a math and science guy. I love the writing that I do in my journal, but for some people, this is, creative writing journal sparks creativity, explores ideas for storytelling, it's personal expression, unleash your inner artist, right? And this is something that Tom Oldman's helped me do as far as I've never really been an art guy before, really understanding the work of Tom. So prompt and free write, right? Start with a creative prompt and write for 5 to 10 minutes without stopping, okay? Key ideas and developments, highlight one image or concept and expand on it, on how it could grow into a story or project, and then reflection. Note how the writing process felt and what you discovered about your creativity, right? And if you do this on a daily basis, like I said, over the course of a week or a month, you can reflect back. And again, you can keep track, you have your creative writing journal. You can also combine journals where you're doing your creative writing journal, but you're also doing your progress as well, right? So prompt, a door to anywhere, free write, rusty forest door opens quickly to cloud, right? So they're creating this image, the key image, floating bridges, development, story, a girl escaping, reflection, felt liberating, okay? So these are some ideas, your journey, your rules, right? Everybody's going to be unique, but I encourage you to do some type of journaling, whether it's a daily journal, whether it's a weekend journal. When it comes to one of my business on Friday, I have to go through and do a bunch of record keeping. And I also include lines in this, it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet, but I include lines in there that are basically my journal included in with my actual notes. So remember, journaling is a personal practice. Customize these outlines. Be consistent, okay? The more you do it, the more you're going to enjoy doing it, the more you're going to be able to look back and reflect on the times that you spent, the different people that you met. One of the things that I've encouraged my younger brother to do, okay, I've got a young stepbrother who's in his 20s, is keep track of your contacts, right? And, him and I have talked about journaling as well, but when keeping track of your contacts, you can do this in your journal as well, because you're going to meet new people along the way. And in our 7K business, what's the most important thing, right? Our follow-up. So customize your journal, right? Adapt sections, combine elements, or add new ones. Consistency, this is one for me, do it on a daily basis. Just be consistent in what you do. Kind of like getting up in the morning, making your bed, or brushing your teeth. You're just automatically do those things. And if you're consistent in journaling, it'll just be automatic. It'll just be just like brushing your teeth every day. Okay? Okay, flexibility, skip sections that don't apply, right? I'm not a creative writer, okay? I don't do that kind of stuff. My journals are gonna be set up a little different, but choose the one that feels right for you. And embrace the power of journaling, watch your personal growth unfold, because you will see the progress that you make. You will see, whether you're full, whether it's in a positive way, or if you have challenges, you're gonna see the progress that you make with both. Okay, so this ends my presentation, folks. I appreciate you, taking some time to
Hello, Kaya.
uh,
Did I pronounce that correctly?
look at this journaling
Hello,
idea.
Maria.
It is a little bit different than what we
Guadalupe.
normally talk about here on Saturday morning, but it's something I think that can really help us in our business. It's something I really think can make a difference, especially when it comes to tracking our progress.
Septimas.
If you think about, if you
Tamas.
just keep track of how many new contacts did you make this week, right? Keep a journal just for contacts. Keep a journal with the follow-ups. It's going to make a difference. I promise it will. So I'm going to turn the time back over to Mr. Tony Hubbard, and I'll let you take it away from here, my friend.
All right, Joseph, I want you to stay on for a little bit because I want to ask a couple of questions about the journaling. How long are you? First of all, before we ask Joseph a couple of questions and go into some more training, put a 2 in the chat if you thoroughly enjoyed the information, and like myself, you were taking some copious notes on how you too can start journaling and increase your effectiveness and not only in business but in life. We see the incredible
I've been
Underwood,
journaling
Amy
since
Cohen,
high
okay.
school.
Joe and Mr. Thomas, okay. Mr. Miller, okay. Outstanding there. All right. And Joe, and share with us now, how long you been doing journaling yourself?
So about 5 years now.
Wow. Okay, 5 years.
I wish it was longer. It's something that for me, I picked it up later, but I had that stigma, Tony, from, don't look at your sister's diary thing. Diaries are for girls, right? So, when I heard another guy that I respected, I had a lot of respect for, and he's a, masculine guy. He's like, yeah, I journal all the time. That's when I thought, wow, look at this, and I started doing it. So.
All right. What area did you start seeing the quickest effect as far as when you start journaling? And what area of your life?
So when I first started, it was more in the, for my entertainment, like when I was going on trips or doing things like that. The switch into business was just in the last couple of years, and for me, it's really made a difference as far as being able to track my progress. That's where I see the most benefit, is to see, okay, I was here, last month, I'm here this month. I was here a year ago, I'm here this year, right? And so tracking the progress has been major, especially, I guess it's been about 3 years now. Okay, so it was August, about 3 years ago, that I started doing it in business as well.
Okay. And let me say this, and I got a couple more questions, but I remember watching a show, online on YouTube one time, and I remember Oprah Winfrey when she first became a billionaire.
Off and on for me
And
since
she
high
shot a
school.
movie
And after I lost my father, I used the journal as though I was writing to him.
Of the movie.
That was very
And she
helpful.
noticed that,
And I
during the
journaled
breaks and
my
stuff like
breast
that, he was
cancer
always writing something
journey.
in a journal and stuff. And so she finally, just curiosity got the best of her, and she asked, and he told her how this has helped his life tremendously because, when he
And
journaled.
I journal in
And
business.
so she started doing the same thing. And one thing she said, not only her overall life and stuff, but her wealth increased as well because she didn't realize how much you tend to forget if you're not journaling. When you journal and go back and look at it, it brings things to your memory, the whole 9 yards. So she's a definite big proponent of that. So and one of the things too, and I'll ask you one more question. The great Jim Rohn put it like this. He said, when you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. Okay, when you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. And when you started journaling and stuff like that, now when do you recommend people journal? In the morning, late at night, during the course of the day? What do you think is the best time?
So my journaling actually comes in stages, Tony. All right.
Okay.
Throughout the day, I have a notepad, and it's just scribble notes. right? If you give me a little nugget on the morning call, I scribble a note, right? And so this is just, it's like a code. Nobody's going to be able to look at this and understand what it is and all the different things. So then at the end of the day, what I'll do is I'll go through and just kind of organize my thoughts. And I have two different journals I keep, one for business, one for personal. And if whatever the note was falls in with the personal line, I put it in there. And then I also keep a notebook as well. So if it's like what you just taught about Jim Rohn, right? Those kind of training lessons I put into a notebook that I can go back and just, it's all about training in 7K and the different things we learn in network marketing. So for me, the idea is, through the day, I'm going to just scratch on this little pad. I'm going to, get just the highlights of everything. So then at the end of the day, I can go back through, right into my journal, what I need to keep track of. And a lot of times for me, journaling comes, I don't sleep a lot. I'll go to bed sometimes really early, sometimes really late, but usually it's that time in the night when it's really quiet that I find I do the best with the journaling as far as, keeping my thoughts organized. That's generally when I do it, is after everything's quiet. No more phone calls, no more spam calls, no more any of the other stuff going on in life. So
nice, man, nice. Congratulations on that, man. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Joseph stays sharp. He's always well abreast of a lot of things that's going on and stuff. Because again, I mean, when you write it down and stuff, I've heard it say for years that a goal is simply a dream with a deadline. But for people that are real big on goal setting, I mean, just because you say it or whatever, it doesn't mean anything until you write it down. And when you write it down in your handwriting, from a lot of experts, it's almost like you're giving a commandment to the subconscious mind that you want certain things to come to pass. So definitely hats off to you, man. You write a lot more than I do. I take some copious notes, mine, like yourself. I got a lot of scrabble and stuff. I print out a lot of my stuff. Well, I say I don't write it in cursive, so I'm just putting the big print and stuff on there. But again, it helps me tremendously when I go back and go over that stuff. So definitely hats off to you, Mr. Consistent. What you saying?
I was going to say thank you, Tony, because that what you say about take copious notes, right? I didn't do that when I started 7K 8 years ago, or I wasn't doing that. Like I said, it's about 5 years ago that I started really getting good at keeping track of my notes and everything. And as I get older, I notice my memory's not quite as sharp as it was a couple years ago, but so
I think we can all agree to that, man. I mean, I got a pretty good memory on things, but like I said, it helps out tremendously when I write it down and go back and remember that. So I appreciate it. Again, I appreciate it, man. Look forward to seeing you over the top, man. All right, and so what we're going to do for the rest of, say, 45 minutes or so, is I'm going to address some of you that are on board today. You've been on board a year. You've been on board 6 months. You've been on board 2 years, 5 years, 7, 8 years, like myself and Joseph Blanton. And so I'm just going to go off the cuff today, and I'm have you guys put in the chat, what area do you believe if you can be a little bit better in that you promoting for the event, whatever the case may be, put it in the chat, and then I'm gonna share with you guys until for the next 45 minutes.
Is it Kaya
Some of the things I've done,
Ethereum?
some of the things I've learned from some of my mentors in order to have success in that recruitment realm. All right. Okay, let's start out with
Pretty
Joe
mushrooms.
Preston. I'm gonna address hers first, but each and every one of you put in that, and we'll handle each one until we finish to the top of the hour stuff. Recruiting and following up. Okay. All right. Recruiting and following up. All right. Let me share this with you. One of the areas that I never really had a lot of challenges in was in the recruiting and the following up. Okay. And here's the reason why. Put a 2 in the chat if you notice some people come on board with no network marketing experience, and they have a lot of success right off the bat. And you be wondering, I mean, what did they do differently? They didn't work any harder than you and stuff. But man, how this person come in? And, they've never been a part. They've never done sales. They've never done their marketing. But they come in and they just blowing it up and stuff. They just having like some phenomenal success and stuff. And that was the thing that really puzzled me, because that was my way. My first company, all I did was I was excited. I was enthusiastic. I saw this as a vehicle to replace my income at the chemical plant. And so when I came in, one of the things that allowed me to have success in my first company, now I didn't make six figures in that company, but I made full-time income. One of the things that allowed me to have success is that I came in and I was coachable and teachable, and I did whatever they said to do, I did it. They said you need to go out and get 20 customers in your first couple of weeks. So I went out and got 50. Okay, I got 50 within my first 2 weeks in that business. It was a service-based business where we offered electricity, phone, internet. So I went out and got 50 customers in the first couple of weeks, and then they said you need to sign up a couple of business partners that came in. It was $500 to get involved in that business. This was back in 2000. They said you need to sign up a couple of business partners. If you sign up 3 of them and help them get their customers, you can reach the first rank that people start noticing you. So what took most people 30 to 60 days, I did it in like 13 days in that company. So in 13 days I reached that, but all I did was just do what they told me to do. They told me to give me some customers. I called everybody and I used the script. Could you do me a favor and try my service? I did that. And I had a lot of people that gave me their service. It didn't cost them anything. And then they told me to have a home meeting at my house and invite 20, 30 people. I did that. I invited 25. I had like 17 to show up and 12 of them signed up, And I just did what they told me to do, okay? And so what ended up happening was, I had some success, and some people were excited, until I surpassed them, and then some people got jealous and stuff. And they said, well, man, how is he coming in? Because I was 36 years old when I entered in network marketing. How is he coming in having so much success? And he didn't have any background. I didn't have no sales background. I was an operator at a chemical plant. But it wasn't until I heard Eric Warren at one of his conferences tell why that happens. He said, when you first come on board in network marketing, no matter what company it is, he said you will be either rewarded or punished based on the kind of person you were before you entered into the business. And I want you guys to write that down. Some of the reasons why some people have phenomenal success right off the bat and some people struggle, he said you will be either rewarded or punished based upon the kind of person you were before you entered that company. Okay, and because I had helped a lot of folks financially, spiritually, and things of that nature, when to help them move, things of that nature, I had a lot of people that when I asked them to do me a favor, they were willing to do me a favor, especially if it didn't cost them any money. So I had success initially, and again, I want you guys to know that as well, that when you bring on a new person, they don't have any prior experience, and that person will either be rewarded or punished based upon the kind of person they were before they signed up in the company, okay? Now, I had a lot of success in recruiting early on because I was excited, enthusiasm, and they told me if you set yourself on fire, the world will come and watch you burn. So I was on fire, I was jacked up, I was jacked sideways, whatever the case may be. So my initial recruiting, I had success because I had excitement and enthusiasm when I joined that company. But I realized that sooner or later, I was going to have to learn that skill in order to have continuous success. Okay? And I'm going to share with you guys what has allowed me, to be the #1 recruiter in the company's history. And 7K medals. It'll be 9 years come November the 5th, which, by the way, is Christy Ball's, Roger Ball's daughter's birthday. I recruited over 520 people during that time frame, okay? And all that means I've had way more no's than you. And I've gotten real good at putting people through a process. But I understood some things, and I just controlled what I could control. And I want you guys to write it down. Control what you can control. Meaning this. I can't control how many people sign up. I can't. What I can control is how many people I properly expose to the business. Okay? Now, if I know the numbers, and I want you to write this down, you got to know the number before you can grow the number. Let me say that again. You got to know the number before you can grow the number. So once I found out that when it comes to recruiting, I don't care how good you are, I don't care what company you are, I don't care what product or service you have, the average person signs up in any network marketing company after 4 to 6 exposures. Okay? I don't care how good you are, 4 to 6 exposures on average. That means some will sign up after 1, 100%. That means some will sign up after 10 exposures, 100%. But the average person signs up after 4 to 6 exposures. So if I understand those are the numbers, I control what I can control. So my focal point is to make sure that if I have a prospect, I'm moving them from exposure to exposure to exposure. And you can be god-awful in this company. But if you do enough exposures, if you show enough previews, and show enough movies, you're going to sign people up on your team. And what I mean by previews, the preview is showing them the video in the back office, following up, and then inviting them to a presentation like this. Exposure after exposure. The method to the madness is that every one of my prospects, and I always have at least 10 in the pipeline. I always had at least 10 people in the pipeline, okay? I mean, at any given time, I got at least 10 people in the pipeline. And all I'm doing is focus on exposure after exposure. And after the first exposure, I always try to make the second one bigger than the first. The third one bigger than the second. Okay, so recruiting aspect, just focus it on control what you can control and exposure after exposure. And you can't, you got to learn how to emotionally detach yourself from the results. Okay, and that's easier said than done. Okay, it still stings when you have somebody you think gonna sign up and then all of a sudden they ghost you. All of a sudden they check into the witness protection program. It still stings. It just stings less now because I always got people in the pipeline. Okay, and if you want it to sting less, play with bigger numbers. See, if I'm only talking to 2 people a week and both of them reject me, you know, you be ready to throw in the towel. You be ready to say, you know, this stuff don't work. But if I'm talking to 5, 10 at a time, and 1 or 2 of them reject me, but the other ones, I end up signing up in the business, then it doesn't sting as much, okay? It doesn't sting as much. All right, so that's it on recruiting aspect. I mean, we'll have other classes in the near future where we'll go into details as far as the language and, you know, but also on the follow-up. And I was actually talking to one of the young men that joined my team nearly a year ago. I was talking to him on the follow-up. I want you guys to write this down, and you probably heard it many times. The fortune is in the follow-up, okay? The fortune is in the follow-up. That was something I first heard in network marketing. When I went into traditional sales, I heard it time and time again. The fortune is in the follow-up. Why do you think people say that? Here's the major reason, ladies and gentlemen. Very rarely do you get somebody in front of one presentation and they sign up in the business. That's rare. Of the 500 some people, 35 of them signed up after 1 exposure. Okay, I don't even look for it, be honest with you. If it happens, that's just icing on the cake. But the majority of them, they had network marketing experience, they had been in gold and silver, whatever the case may be. I worked with them before in another opportunity. They 1 exposure. I sent them a video. When I sent them the follow up, you know, they said, okay, well, give me a link so I can sign up. Okay. I understand that the fortune is in the follow up. Okay. And so that being said, how do I follow up? Let me teach you a simple deal, and many of you have heard me say it before, but it bears repeating. I learned from a guy that deposited over $100 million in his bank account in 10 years in a company. For 3 years, he was the number one earner in all the network marketing company. And when he made his first million in a company, he did a series of training. The name escapes me right now. But one of the training that he did was BAM FAM. BAM FAM. BAMFAM. I want you to write that down. BAM FAM. BAM FAM stands for book a meeting from a meeting. The reason why I don't have some of the challenges that many of you are having today, I don't have them anymore, and it's almost non-existent, is because number one, I'm looking for people to work with me that have integrity. That's who I'm looking for. Okay? And we do not get off the phone. If we're in the prospecting mode, if it's your first exposure, second exposure, third exposure, it doesn't matter. We do not get off the phone until we've already planned the next exposure. On every conversation, I will book another meeting from that meeting. Okay? On every conversation, I'm booking a meeting from a meeting. And I was talking to a young man today, and he said, hey, I'm doing that and stuff. I said, well, walk me through the process. Tell me what you're saying. And we found just one little glitch in his system that I told him, if you correct that, you'll have better results. And what was that? Again, I'm coming from the Eric Worre School, Go Pro. If you read the book, this is what worked for him. Because I was taught in sales the opposite. I was taught in sales when I'm doing the follow up. I'm telling you, okay, I got a window between 2 and 6 on tomorrow. What time works for you? I was taught in sales, more so aggressive sales, to take control of it and then give them a window and then basically hold them to that. Tomorrow I'm open between 2 and 6. What time works for you? But in network marketing, in Eric Worre style, he said, I'm only looking to identify and work with people that have integrity and character. So for that reason, after I've sent the video to you and we're trying to establish the time we're going to talk over tomorrow, next day, whatever the case may be, I'm going to let you tell me what's the good time to follow up. So when I said, listen, hey, Joe, it's been a pleasure, man. Get a chance to share this information with you. So I'm getting ready to send over the video. What's a good time for me to follow up with you, Joe, on tomorrow? Or what's a good time for me to follow up with you, Joe, after the video? And I'm going to let Joe tell me what's a good time. Okay? I'm going to let him tell me. Because my friend, what he was doing was staying between 2 and 6 tomorrow. And they were giving him an answer, but in reality, they had no intention of being there between 2 and 6. But they gave him that number. When he called, they didn't answer. They checked into the witness protection program. So what I've done, and again, 90% of the time, they're answering the phone or they're calling me right back. I said, Joe, what's a good time for me to follow up after you watch the video? And then I listen and I re-emphasize what he just said. He said, well, I'm gonna probably watch tonight, so if you give me a call tomorrow after church, I would have watched the video. So tomorrow after church, so you're talking 1:30, 2:30? He said 2:30. Okay, all right, great. Listen, I look forward to speaking to you, Joe, tomorrow at 2:30 after you watch the video. Boom, we're off the phone. So I let him tell me what's a good time for me to follow up. I write it down, and I follow up at the time that he said. Okay? So again, the fortune is in the follow-up. The reason why people say the fortune is in the follow-up, because 9 times out of 10, when you present this information to somebody, they're not signing up right away. So it may be the second follow-up. It may be the 5th follow-up. It may be the 10th follow-up. And I've had a few of those. But keep in mind, the fortune is definitely in the follow-up. All right? So that goes for Joe. Okay. All right, retention. All right, Susan got a great one. Okay, retention. All right. Here's the thing on retention, ladies and gentlemen. Matter of fact, I'm going to let you guys answer the question. For those of you who've been on board for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 8 years like myself, Put in the chat, why are you still here? Put in the chat, why are you still here? Susan Back was saying, she wants retention for a team. And that's something we all want. Okay? Put in the chat, why are you still here? 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, me 9 years later. Why are you still here? So I'm going to let you answer that question. Joe said, belief in the company, the product, and myself. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, anybody else? Why are you still here? Jack said, I truly believe this can be a real game changer for my family. Okay, great. Johnny Harris, I still have my why, 100%. Okay. Let's see. I'm determined to have a new outlook for my life. Okay, I like that. Dr. Nugent, okay. All right, Teresa, let me allow you to unmute. I don't know if you were trying to raise your hand.
Oh,
Teresa, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch that. I was actually typing and I reached around and did that. But yeah.
All right.
Sorry. Thank you.
No problem. All right, Pam said I'm new and I believe in the product. Okay, I like that. Okay. Anybody else? Why are you still here? After 1 year, 5 years, Joe said he can work from anywhere. Okay. All right. All right. Here's the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Retention counts. The reason why you're still here, the reason why whoever your sponsor is or whoever the people above you love the fact that you're buying a coin every month is because you believe in what you're doing. You learn more about the company the longer you stayed on board. And because you are educated on the value of everything the company has, you're not going anywhere. And that same belief, ladies and gentlemen, will cause retention to come on your team if you just teach them the same thing. Okay? Because retention is about their belief and what they have their hands on. And most people, when they come on board, they have no clue on just how amazing what 7K Metals has to offer. The fact that we can buy gold and silver fractionally. We have a frictionless liquidation when it comes to gold and silver. You know, that's huge. To be able to store gold and silver in a private vault up to $50,000 for free. And if you've ever put anything in a private vault, you know they don't do anything for free, let alone $50,000. Most of them are charging you, 2-3% of whatever the value what you have. Okay? And so the biggest thing to have retention on your team is that people don't mind investing in something once they see the value. Okay? So it's our job as a sponsor, it's our job as a leader to make sure that everybody that you bring on board and as many people on your team, they understand the value of what they have their hands on. Many of the people that drop out, they have no clue what they have their hands on. They have no clue. Here's what I want you to understand. If they knew they had their hands on a gold mine, they wouldn't let go. If they knew they have their hands on the potential of earning an extra $50,000 a year part-time, they would not let go. If they knew they had the potential to have a testimony 2 years from now, 5 years from now, of having $100,000, $200,000 worth of gold and silver because they put their wealth on layaway, they would not let go. So it's our job as a sponsor, as a leader over your team, to educate them on what it is we have our hands on. And the biggest thing I focus on to get retention is to let them know that we have our hands upon a win-win-win scenario, how rare that is in the network marketing space, and nobody gets hurt. You can bring grandmother on because grandmother's not going to get hurt. You can bring your uncle on because your uncle will not get hurt. You can bring your parents on because your parents will not get hurt. What do I mean by that? Again, you guys have heard me say this many times. Let's just say a person just wants to be a customer and they're buying gold and silver every single month. Okay, at the end of the year, God forbid, at the end of 2 years, God forbid, if something happens to the company, that person still has several $1,000 worth of assets. So they won. Okay, they're not garage qualified with the wrong stuff. I mean, because I have a lot of great friends that do well in the health and wellness space, and many of them are garage qualified. Because a lot of the health and wellness companies, they're based upon the premise they're teaching those people to buy a lot and watch it rot. Okay, in order for them to earn commissions, I mean,
It's not good.
I went to a friend of mine's house one time. He was in a water company, alkaline water company, and this guy, I could barely get in his living room because he had like 80 cases of water, and he could barely open up the door. Now, the good thing in that one, it didn't go to waste. But I've seen people had vitamins that in turn different colors, and so 5 years from now, they have something that they couldn't use. But we have a unique opportunity that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what you have will still have value. Okay? Another way you're going to win is that if they're buying a collectible coin every month, according to the IRS tax codes, if it's considered ordinary and necessary for you to build a business, it becomes a write-off. Oftentimes, your initial capital outlay, $149,599, becomes a write-off at the end of the year. And when you look at the write-offs, and because it's a home-based business, you can write off a portion of the bills in your house. So I get a chance to stack assets and write-offs. You won. And if you like myself and many of you that are on this Zoom right now, you got a chance to earn an incredible amount of money, stack an incredible. I know hundreds of people that's been on board for 4 years plus that have at least $100,000 worth of gold and silver. And many of them, their testimony, they had never been able to save anything before. They have a savings and assets that they can pass on. They have write-offs and to be able to make money. So once people understand what they have their hands on, that will drastically increase your retention. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right, let's look at who else had a question in here about some of the challenges. Because one of the things that's always hard, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're a loyal person, one of the things always hard, and I had to grasp, and it took me several years before it didn't sting as bad, is that my mentor told me that attrition is a part of the game. And once I grasped that concept, I learned how to appreciate people, to know that some people in your 7K Metals business will only be in your life for a season. Some people will be aboard and they'll be a blessing that you've earned commission off of them for 6 months. Some people a year. Some people 2 years. And then every now and then you're going to be blessed for people to come on board and they there when you there. They're going to be there forever. You couldn't shake them, But attrition is a part of the game. What do I mean by that? My mentor told me early on, listen, everybody start out in the freshman class won't make it to the sophomore class. All of your sophomores won't become juniors. All your juniors won't become seniors. And guess what? All the ones that become seniors, they won't graduate. I've had my number one recruiters in 7K, my 2 top recruiters that I've ever brought on board, both quit. 2. One of them, she was the number 2 recruiter in the company's history. When I was at 260 recruits, she was at 160 personal recruits. She quit. And she had been on board with me nearly 4 years at the time. And she quit. And then 2 months later, my next top recruiter, who recruited 80-some people in his first week, after 2 years, he quit. And I'm talking about after making over $100,000 a year. He quit. And so, like Jim Rome said, I mean, why do people quit after doing that? Jim Rome said, I wouldn't take that class. I wouldn't take that class. I mean, some of them, the birds are going to get them. So I hope that makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let me see how much time we got left. Okay, we still got a little time. I see Joe had, and then I also saw Susan had some of the things she's having a challenge with. Following up and promoting the incredible underwoods. Okay. Follow-up part, again, we'll stress again. The fortune is in the follow-up. But the follow-up is a lot easier if you bam fam, if you booked a meeting from a meeting. Okay? Because now I don't come across as chasing you. Now I just come across as a business professional that's honoring my word, and I'm calling you like you and I both agreed upon. Okay, I'm calling you. You agreed to call you tomorrow at 2:30 after church. So when I call you at 2:30 after church, if you don't answer, that's on you. So how do I handle that so that I don't come across as chasing? This is another lesson I learned from one of my $1 million mentors. Once we've established a time to follow up, and if you don't answer that first call, I'm going to leave a voice message. And now the dance starts, because you're going to get 3 calls, and that third call will be a goodbye call. Okay? You're going to get 3 calls. And the third call will be a goodbye call. So how does that work? Let's just say myself and Underwoods. I'm prospecting them, and they've watched the video, we followed up, and they said, listen, call me tomorrow, and let's talk about, coming on board, okay? All right, so they said, call me tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Let's talk about coming on board and, what my options. Okay, great, because I had this happen this week. That just happened this week. So let me share with you guys how it works. So let's just say I'm prospecting the Underwood. They say, okay, I'm ready. Come on board. Call me tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Let's go through it. So I call them tomorrow at 2 o'clock. All right. Now what I typically do now, because there are 2 ways to sign people up. You can send them the link and let them do the whole deal themselves, or you can start the process in your back office, prepare an enrollment in your back office. 90% of people I'm bringing on board right now, I start that enrollment, for them. And I put it in there. We go through the options. I send it to their email. Let them sign up. Okay. But let's just say I didn't do that with the Underwoods. I'm following up, and I get their voicemail. Now they've already watched the video. They seen the presentation. They said, call me tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Ready to get started. Okay, great. I call them, and I get the voicemail. Here's how that looks. I would say, hey, Underwood, listen, this is Tony Hubbard. I'm following up with you as I promised. If you would, give me a call back. My number is 281-850-5435. Boom. Okay? Now, I'm going to give them 48 hours to return that phone call. Okay? 48 hours. All right? Let's just say they don't respond back in 48 hours. 48 hours later, I'm giving them phone call number 2. How that sounds is this. Hey, Underwood, this is Tony Hubbard. I'm following up with you again as I promised. I left you a message 2 days ago. Hopefully everything is well. When you get a chance, give me a call back. My number is 281-850-5435. But let's just say, and again, I've rarely had this happen, but let's just say I don't hear from them after that second phone call. I'm waiting another 48 hours. And that third phone call will be a goodbye call. Okay? What does that sound like? Hey, Underwoods, this is Tony Hubbard. I'm following up with you again as I promised. I've left you a couple of messages over the last few days. Hopefully you received them. But listen, I want you guys to know that unless I hear back from you concerning the matter, this is the last time you're going to hear from me of Revolving 7K. I hope that everything is well. And whether we speak again or not, I wish you much success in all your future endeavors. My number is 281-850-5435. That's the end of it. And so either that person, because they've been dodging me the whole time, either that person is on the other end breathing a sigh of relief, I ain't got to worry about this guy calling me no more, or if And I've had a couple of occasions where they had to go out of town, an emergency or something happened. They had to take care of a loved one or whatever, and they call me back and say, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I still want to do this and stuff, man. I apologize. Something happened to my family." So I've had it both ways. I've had it where I never spoke to that person again, and I've had it where they called me back a couple of days later. They were very apologetic, and I brought them on board in the business. Okay, but either way, when you do that goodbye call, what I do, I mentally remove them from my list. Okay, they go way at the back of the list. So if I ever call them again, it's gonna be just, hey, if they're my friend or whatever, it's just check on you, see how you're doing. I'm not gonna bring it up as far as selling KFC. Okay, they have to understand I'm running my business like a business, and they have to understand that the train is gonna go to the station whether they come on board or not. Would love for you to be a passenger. Whether you come on board or not, I'm gonna reach my goals and dreams. I'm gonna impact thousands of lives for the better. I would love for you to be a passenger, but whether you come on board or not, I'm still gonna get my goals and dreams. I hope that helped, guys.
Mhm.
All right. And let me see what else is in the chat. Okay. See, was there retention? Underwoods that have recruiting and following up. Let's see. But on my past experience. Okay. All right. Anyone else? If you want to put it in the chat right now, because there's a lot of stuff in the chat. Anybody else? We got about a little over 10 minutes left. Anybody else want to share? Maybe it's an area that you're having, because chances are, if you're having a challenge in that area, other folks are having that same challenge. Anybody else want to put in there maybe an area that you're having a challenge in that we can share some nuggets with you, maybe that'll help you get over the hump or help you become better in recruiting, promoting, follow-up, presenting, whatever the area may
Let's
be.
see. I have
Because one of the
one.
things I found to be true, Eric Worre talks about in the book Go Pro, he talks about 7 skill sets, not 70, not 700, 7 skill sets. If you get good at them, you'll make full-time income on a part-time basis. If you start mastering a few of them, now you're looking at 6 figures, 7 figures, and even 8-figure year income. So, my mentor told me early on, you need to master the mundane and become brilliant in the basics. So every single day, I look to better my best. Okay, every single day, I look to better my best. All right, Teresa, let me see what you got in the chat. Letting them know it's legit and not a scam or an illegal pyramid. Okay. Let me say this as far as none of us are in the convincing business. Okay, we're not in the convincing business. My mentor told me early on that a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. Either you're open to an opportunity or you're not. But I'm not. I can care less on whether or not you believe that what I have my hands on is legitimate or a pyramid. But let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about how do you know, I rarely get that objection anymore. Early on, I used to get it, and it would be frustrating because I was so passionate about my business. When people call it a pyramid, it's like when I was a little kid on the playground and somebody talk about your mama. And if somebody talk about your mama, you knew there was fighting words. Put a 2 in the chat if you agree. When you was growing up, you could talk about anybody. But the moment somebody talked about your mama, it was on. It was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, hey.
Like popcorn.
Yeah, you can talk about it. You can talk about my brothers, my sister.
No, that's
and
right.
those were fighting words as well. But
It's not smart to talk about
the
people's
line
mamas
that you did not cross
in a negative way.
if somebody tried to talk about your mama. Somebody talk about your mama, it's on. We fight. We passing licks. Hey, you talking about my mom? Yeah, we gonna. I mean, if we at school, we gonna both be in the principal's office because we fight. That's my mom. I wouldn't be here. So that being said, What about if somebody wants to talk about your business being legit, or the pyramid or whatever? One of the easiest ways to diffuse the pyramid objection is Eric Warren talks about just ask the question. What do you call a pyramid? Okay. What do you mean by pyramid? And here's what you're going to find to be true, ladies and gentlemen. Most of the people that throw around the word pyramid, they wouldn't know a pyramid if they were standing in Egypt. Okay? They don't. Most of the people that use the pyramid objection, they just saying what they heard somebody else say. Matter of fact, that was my story before I got involved in the market. Like I said, I was 36 when I got involved in the market. I've been 12 years at the chemical plant. And, I was 36. And I remember, because I had been to probably 15 or more network marketing presentations, people that invited me out. They would never tell me what it was, but I was always looking for, ways to maybe make extra money. And they would compliment me. They see me at the grocery store. Hey, I'm working with some doctors and attorneys. They would love to work with someone like you. And I went out. But I didn't understand the industry at that time. And I remember when the guy that got me signed on at the chemical plant, he referred me. He was my neighbor. He was a pastor. He was the one that referred me to the chemical plant. And that was the guy that recruited him into Amway. And that guy told him to invite me to a presentation where we sat down at a Starbucks. And so when I found out it was Amway, he said, "Man, I told him right off the bat, I ain't in the pyramids." And what he did, he shocked me. He said, "Well, now this ain't a pyramid," and he explained what it was. That's the first time I ever heard somebody explain a pyramid. But I was saying what I heard somebody else say. Okay, and I'm telling you, most of the people that use that word, they wouldn't know a pyramid if they were standing in Egypt. So one of the easiest ways to diffuse that is to ask them, "What do you mean by pyramid?" and hear what they have to say. They say, "Well, it's one of those kind of things where the people at the top make all the money and stuff, and the people down here don't." I said, "Well, no, it's not one of those." Okay, and I'll just tell them that it's not one of those. But there are people that make more money that were not here at the beginning. So the people at the top are not the ones that make all the money. Okay? And you just let them know, well, is it one of them pyramid? I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's one of the kind of things I can build a team, make money." I said, "Well, then you're going to love this one." So based upon what they say, you respond in kind. Okay? But if they really want to be educated, I would let them know. There are a lot of major structures that are structured like a pyramid. A pyramid is not a bad thing. I said, now when it comes to business, there are two types. And I'll give you guys this, and we're going to wrap it up. When it comes to business, there are two types of pyramids. In network marketing, there are two types. There's legal, and then there's illegal. Okay? What's an illegal pyramid? An illegal pyramid is when money is exchanged, but no goods or services are rendered to an end user. There's no real product or services. That constitutes an illegal pyramid. The government will eventually shut it down. Okay? A legal pyramid is when money is exchanged and either goods or services are rendered to the end user. That constitutes a legal pyramid. And so when you share that part and they still have a problem with it and they work a 9 to 5, I say, you know what? You probably need to go ahead and quit your job on Monday. So what I mean by that? I say, at your job, is there a CEO? Yes, at the top. Underneath that, that's a board of directors, right? Then there's some upper level management, lower level management, and then all of us down here that's doing all the work. If you draw it out, what does it look like? It looks like a pyramid. Do you go to church? Great. Let's look at the structure of the church. You typically have one pastor, right? And then you have some other ministers underneath that. Then you have some deacons, missionaries. Then you have all the lay members. If you draw it out, what does it look like? A pyramid. So if you really got an issue with that, and you work a 9 to 5, you might want to quit that on Monday. So Again, there's ways to diffuse the situation, but that's why it's on us to learn our business and to be prepared for objections, because certain objections are going to come. But most of the time, it's money, time, you know, and they don't understand. Okay, those are the three common ones you're gonna get. Don't have enough money, don't have enough time, and I really don't understand it. And you just got to be prepared to handle each of those. All right, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, looking at the report today, there are thousands of individuals with a little bit more effort. You can make an extra 250, 500, 1,000, 7,000, 10,000, just a little bit more effort.
That's
so I'll be
good.
available after this Zoom. You need 3 ways, whatever the case may be. And I want to end the call today with one of my favorite motivational quotes. And it said, there's nothing to fear. You're as good as the best. As strong as the mightiest too. You can pass any battle or any test because there's no one just like you. That's the only one you in the world today, so no one else you'll see can do your work in a justifying way. You're the only you'll be. So face the world and all life is yours. To conquer and love and live. And you'll find the happiness that endures and just the measure you give. There's nothing too good for you to possess, no heights where you cannot go. Your power is more than belief or guess. It is something you have to know. There's nothing to fear. You can and you will because you're the invincible you. So set your foot on the highest hill. There is nothing you cannot do. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thoroughly convinced it is a stone cold fact. We have a better way. Now let's go out there and tell the world. Everyone have a great evening. God bless and take care.
Thank you. If you would like to know more, put info in the comments. So that was a good training from a millionaire on networking. Thank you all so much for spending this time with me. I love you. Bye.